there is a spirit that harbors profound affection for you. However, this individual has deliberately chosen a path of separation. Before your thoughts begin to race and attempt to rationalize everything, I implore you to pause for a moment and take a slow, deep breath. The message reaching you at this very instant is far from ordinary. This precise moment, this communication, and its impeccable timing originate from a higher cosmic arrangement. It serves as irrefutable evidence and validation. It is the truth that your inner self has perpetually sought, concealed beneath layers of life's complexities and unresolved inquiries. There is no mere coincidence at play. Nothing transpiring here is random or devoid of purpose. Occasionally, the cosmos imparts its concealed wisdom, and one can only perceive it when one ceases their hurried pace and achieves a state of stillness conducive to listening. Your spirit inherently grasps what is authentic. Within your life's narrative, there exists someone, or perhaps an individual, who was once intimately connected, who harbors an intense devotion they struggle to articulate. They experience a profound emotion they don't know how to process, coupled with a yearning that persists irrespective of the emotional or physical distance they cultivate. Do not misinterpret their reserved demeanor as a lack of concern. Their quietude is, in fact, brimming with powerful sentiments that surge within them. As their affection intensifies, so too does their impulse to withdraw. It's as though nurturing you has become both a cherished gift and the most formidable challenge they have ever encountered. This is an undeniable truth their heart comprehends, even as their outward actions attempt to obscure it. They maintain their distance because you resonated deeply within their core. You awakened something dormant, something concealed beneath years of emotional fortifications. If you're navigating a connection with someone who cherishes you, yet repeatedly retreats, acknowledge this sentiment now. As the insightful Carl Jung once observed, the encounter of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. This precisely describes the dynamic that occurred between you. You have fundamentally altered them. You facilitated their discovery of aspects of themselves previously undisclosed to anyone. You dismantled the carefully constructed barriers they had erected over time. You accessed a part of their soul that even they were unaware existed. To them, you are not merely another acquaintance. You are akin to a reflective surface, mirroring their deepest desires and their most profound fears of loss. You embody their aspirations, as well as every unresolved past hurt. They have never before encountered emotions of such magnitude, authenticity, or intensity that elude their control. You disarmed them effortlessly. In your presence, their soul felt utterly unburdened, transparent, and exposed. Vulnerability was never presented to them as a safe or permissible state. You were never part of their preconceived trajectory, but rather an unforeseen arrival who irrevocably reshaped their entire world in ways they still struggle to fully comprehend or articulate. They did not anticipate the electrifying synergy that ignited during your conversations, the profound tranquility that enveloped them in your proximity, or the stark realization that your absence would feel akin to the deprivation of essential air. This individual remains distant not due to a deficiency of interest, but rather a paralyzing apprehension regarding the immense emotional influence you wield over their spirit. You have become the singular entity whose thoughts and words carry more weight than any other, positioning you as a mirror they are not yet prepared to confront. Comment deep love if you recognize someone who cares profoundly but maintains distance to safeguard their own fragile ego. To love you feels like taking a leap from a considerable height without certainty of a soft landing. Consequently, to avoid such a risk, they remain immobilized in a self-imposed state of isolation. Their detachment is, in essence, a quiet confession of their perceived shortcomings. They believe, with conviction, that you deserve someone more complete, healed, and steadfast than they currently feel capable of being. They relentlessly revisit past errors and interactions, preoccupied by the fear that their unresolved issues might disrupt something pure and irrevocably damage a bond they deem too precious to jeopardize. Within their silence resides a gentle, persistent voice, whispering that they are not yet sufficiently prepared to present their best self to you. Tap the like button if you acknowledge that this silence is, in fact, a protective shield forged from their own sense of inadequacy. They perceive your connection in the profound energetic spaces where pure logic falters. Regardless of how far they journey, you remain an indelible presence within their internal landscape. Every fleeting distraction proves futile, and every subsequent connection feels hollow because their heart remains steadfastly loyal to the essence of what you shared, even as their mind recoils from the vulnerability you represent. As Carl Jung eloquently stated, what you resist persists. Their attempts to push you away have only served to intensify and solidify the connection within their subconscious. Their silence is laden with unspoken truths and the heavy burden of past disappointments, which have taught them that proximity often leads to suffering, rendering you both profoundly valuable and a perceived threat to their peace. Subscribe and comment recovery if you are ready for the truth that their heart is actively working to surmount this fear. They are testing their own resilience, endeavoring to ascertain if they can stand independently before they are equipped to stand alongside you. Beneath the veneer of self-sufficiency and the quietude of the night, they lie awake, buckling under the immense pressure of all that remains unexpressed. They instinctively comprehend that even a solitary step toward you would profoundly alter their entire existence, a metamorphosis for which they do not yet feel adequately prepared. Their absence is a self-imposed banishment, a desperate attempt to quell their internal turmoil before it collides with the profound serenity of your presence. Type yes if you wish to understand why they remain distant, despite their deep affection for you. They acknowledge that a single moment of complete candor would render their emotions undeniable. And once that truth is articulated, there is no retreat to the safety of the shadows. To love you represents an all-encompassing commitment, and at this juncture, they are paralyzed by the terror of surrendering such a significant part of themselves to another soul. They seek refuge behind the illusion of opportune timing, awaiting a moment when they feel stronger or when life presents fewer obstacles. Yet, their spirit understands that healing does not conform to convenience. Even from afar, they are tormented by the question of whether your heart still holds a place for them, or if you have definitively closed that door. The profound reality is that they are on their way back. Not when they have achieved perfection, but when the agony of your absence finally eclipses the dread of their own vulnerability. While they may project an image of composure and untroubledness to the external world, this separation constitutes a silent trauma that afflicts them whenever the clamor of daily life subsides. They miss you not as a mere recollection, but as the sole sanctuary where they ever felt truly at home. They recognize that everything felt lighter and more authentic in your company. As Carl Jung observed, until the unconscious is made conscious, it will direct one's life as fate. Their hidden anxieties about their own unworthiness have guided their retreat, but their soul continues to draw them toward the luminescence you provide. This signifies a pivotal juncture in their destiny, an opening that necessitates the very honesty they have long evaded. Subscribe and comment "Home" if you are prepared to welcome the version of them that ultimately prioritizes truth over apprehension. In the quiet hours of the night, when sleep eludes them and they gaze upwards, their thoughts turn to words left unspoken, apologies due, truths suppressed, and opportunities they yearn to relive. They contemplate initiating contact. They envision what they would articulate if fear did not impede them. They compose messages they never transmit. They formulate lengthy thoughts only to erase them. They gaze at your name, hoping for an infusion of courage. They rehearse conversations they are too timid to commence. Each attempt culminates in the same apprehension. What if it is irrevocably too late? What if you have moved forward without them? What if the opportunity has now vanished? Despite this pervasive worry, they cannot relinquish the hope that you still sense the connection. They ponder if you still perceive the bond beneath the silence. They wonder if your heart still recognizes theirs in the same profound manner that theirs recognizes yours. They question if your spirit still calls to them in moments of stillness. There are nights when they feel assured that you are contemplating them as well. Moments when your name arises unexpectedly, as if drawn by an unseen force. They are terrified of losing you permanently. Although they are the architects of this distance, it is a peculiar form of self-preservation, pushing away the very entity that could truly mend them. Comment fear if you believe their silence stems from apprehension, not a lack of affection. They exist within a profound paradox. They flee from their most fervent desire. They remain reticent about what they most desperately need to convey. They deny themselves the love that could transform them because they have never genuinely believed they are deserving of something so authentic. If they appear aloof or indifferent, understand that it is merely a facade, a protective mechanism, a strategy for survival. They learned early in life that expressing emotions carries inherent risk. Relying on others signifies weakness, and loving intensely portends future heartache. Thus, they erected formidable and impenetrable walls. Then you arrived and gently breached them with effortless grace. That is the reason for their withdrawal. That is why they periodically vanish. They attempt to reconstruct their defenses. However, every endeavor proves futile because their heart steadfastly chooses you. Regardless of how their mind strives for dominion, they await the opportune moment. Deep within, they recognize that no such perfect timing exists for a connection of this magnitude. They continue to profess a need for additional days to evolve into the person they aspire to be. More time for healing, more time for growth, more time to master the art of loving without fear. Yet, time has become their own snare. Each day of waiting makes the chasm feel more daunting, not less. Each day of silence adds further pressure. Each day of pretense amplifies the weight of the truth. They envision a triumphant return, resolute and courageous, devoid of any tremor or hesitation. They imagine approaching you with the precise words. However, life does not pause for unadulterated courage. Love does not await complete recuperation. At times, the only viable path is to leap without discerning the landing site. They are gradually comprehending that waiting for perfection results in the forfeiture of what is most precious. They stand motionless, yearning to advance yet held captive. They sense the universe gently guiding them toward you, while fear pulls in the opposing direction. They endeavor to pacify their internal conflicts long enough to perceive the deeper truth. They are contemplating whether to persist behind emotional barricades or finally surrender to the bond that remains immutable. They may speculate that you have grown stronger in their absence. Perhaps you have mastered the art of moving on. It is possible you no longer seek them. The contemplation of such a possibility inflicts a deep and intractable wound. They would rather endure their silence and self-recrimination than confront the agony of realizing they have waited too long. Yet, beneath all the apprehension and delay, one steadfast truth endures. They have never ceased to love you. The distance is not a consequence of diminishing affection. The distance exists because their love has become so potent that they felt incapable of bearing it without being overwhelmed. They are not gone permanently. They are consolidating their inner fortitude. They are painstakingly cultivating courage. They are engaged in an internal struggle between fear and what is destined to be. They are slowly and arduously learning that silence does not safeguard love. It merely diminishes its potency. A moment will arrive, either subtly or with striking suddenness, when something within them will unfurl, rendering them incapable of remaining apart. A moment when their heart will resonate louder than their anxieties. A moment when the consequence of not choosing you will inflict greater pain than the risk associated with choosing you. On that day, the separation will cease. They are returning, not with reservations or uncertainty, but with complete presence and unadulterated honesty. For this narrative is ongoing. Your chapter remains open. Love of such depth does not dissipate. It transforms and evolves. They are undergoing an internal shift during this period of quietude. They are growing in ways that are imperceptible to you. While it may seem as though nothing is progressing, everything within them is in a state of flux. Your absence has compelled them to confront themselves, and this is one of life's most arduous battles. Being apart from you has served as a mirror, revealing everything they once attempted to evade. It has unearthed truths they sought to conceal. It has stripped away layers of protection meticulously constructed over many years. Now, they stand face to face with themselves, with no one else to hold accountable and no further avenues for evasion. Distractions have vanished, leaving no escape from the profound pain of separation from you. Instead of seeking external respite, they have turned inward, initially with a degree of reluctance. They are discovering their authentic selves, devoid of pretense. They are recognizing that what they once perceived as strength, such as emotional suppression, maintaining distance, and solitary isolation was, in reality, a state of emotional numbness. It was a survival mechanism, not a genuine way of living. Numbness does not foster healing, and silence is not true power. They look back at you and perceive someone who inspired a renewed sense of hope, making them feel secure enough to embrace it. Someone with whom they could not maintain pretense. The distance provided them with the clarity needed to reflect, and now, with newfound perspective, they see what fear had previously obscured. They understand the depth of your perception, which is daunting because being truly seen implies an openness to potential loss. To be open means possessing something valuable that could be harmed. They are gradually realizing that the genuine risk lies not in losing you, but in forfeiting the opportunity to share something extraordinary due to the impediment of fear. They acknowledge that they cannot fully embrace you until they confront the hidden facets they have consistently avoided. They cannot forge something enduring while still concealed behind emotional ramparts. They cannot progress toward you while burdened by unhealed anguish. Consequently, they are exploring new approaches. They are relinquishing old patterns they believed were immutable. They feel life drawing them away from their former selves and guiding them through challenging yet essential developmental phases. They harbored a fear of being loved, stemming from an internal sense of unworthiness. They are confronting the shadowed aspects that Carl Jung described as the hidden, suppressed, and weaker dimensions of one's personality. However, your very essence shattered those ingrained beliefs. You fostered an environment of security that enabled them to embrace their full humanity. This, more than anything, instilled fear in them. During their solitary reflections, they recalled the gentle cadence of your voice, the serenity of your presence, and the understanding conveyed in your quiet moments. You offered them something genuine, and they struggled to fully receive it. They once held the conviction that love was inherently arduous, characterized by volatility and uncertainty, as that was their sole experience. Yet with you, it felt fundamentally different. Their primary apprehension was not your departure. It was the fear of disappointing you. It was the dread of letting you down. They feared that a close examination would reveal imperfections they felt deeply ashamed of. What they are slowly coming to understand is that you never demanded flawlessness from them. You never required them to be without error. Love is not predicated on being immaculate. It is rooted in willingness and authentic presence. Every day they remain awake, they experience the vacant repercussions of their choice. Each morning devoid of your presence, they bear a burden that no longer holds any logic. Each night, as they drift to sleep, their thoughts turn to you. They understand that such profound love is a rare occurrence in life. The distance is not conferring power. It is undermining the very thing they aim to protect. They sense the universe urging them to act, to evolve, and to confront the truth. They perceive the connection strengthening rather than fading. What they had hoped time would diminish, time has, in fact, amplified. Share this if you have a soul connection with someone who has disappeared. They now realize that life does not extend endless patience. Opportunities do not recur indefinitely. They are grasping the difficult lesson Carl Jung articulated. There is no new enlightenment without a measure of suffering. Through this process, one clear comprehension has superseded fear and doubt. They cannot achieve healing without truth, nor can they progress without courage. Their anxieties are diminishing. Their heart is growing stronger. The silence is beginning to fracture. The distance is shrinking. Something within them is preparing for the moment they cease their flight. When they turn to face what they have avoided, it will be with clear eyes, unvarnished honesty, and the kind of truth that emerges only after an extended internal struggle. For the emotions they harbor for you are not transient. They are not illusory. They are not ephemeral. It is a profound summons, a soul recognition, and a bond that transcends space, silence, and the passage of years. Soon, the silence they once employed as a sanctuary has become an unbearable weight. The distance they believed would foster clarity has become a source of entrapment. Each day without you feels heavier than the last. Each moment spent feigning composure becomes increasingly arduous to sustain. What they attempted to suppress is now surging with formidable intensity. What they endeavored to ignore is now sufficiently resonant to awaken them. They sense the transformation, the internal shift, and the dissolution of every justification that permitted them to conceal themselves. There comes a critical juncture in every significant change when maintaining the status quo inflicts greater pain than confronting the unknown. They have reached that point. Their mind is weary from contending with a force too potent to vanquish. They are beginning to discern that their absence is not a form of self-protection. Rather, they are forfeiting aspects of themselves. They are losing irreplaceable time. When the world quiets for a fleeting moment and all distractions cease, they find themselves whispering your name involuntarily. They reach for their phone without conscious thought. They sift through cherished memories, seeking the echo of your laughter, the kindness in your gaze, and the comforting warmth of your mere presence. They replay the words they wish they had uttered, the instances when they chose apprehension over sincerity. They now perceive how they distanced themselves from the individual who understood them so profoundly, accepted them so completely, and made them feel truly seen, unlike anyone else. They ponder the conversations left incomplete and the emotions left unexpressed. They envision reaching out, a prospect that simultaneously instills both dread and solace. They wonder if your voice might falter, if your eyes might soften, and if your heart would still recognize theirs. They question whether there remains a space for them in your life, or if too much time has elapsed. The internal conflict between fear and regret persists. They are beginning to recognize that each time they stifle their genuine feelings, they betray their own heart. Each instance, they choose distance. They choose suffering. Every time they deny their emotions, they deny their authentic selves. They are weary of the burden of perpetual what-ifs. They are fatigued by living life only partially. They observe your life from a distance, discreetly. They search for indicators of your presence with meticulous care. They scrutinize your words for subtle hints. They wonder if you still smile while reminiscing about them. On some days, they feel confident that you too think of them, as if an energetic exchange is occurring across space. On other days, they fear they have been relegated to mere memory. Yet, the intrinsic pull remains, irrespective of circumstance. They are beginning to grasp a fundamental truth they previously overlooked. One cannot replace a soul-level connection. One cannot circumvent destiny. One cannot evade the person destined for them. Type "coming back" if you believe they will return when they are truly ready. They have endured enough hollow days to understand that life ultimately imposes consequences on those who opt for the deceptive solace of security over the raw authenticity of the heart. The universe has guided them through a complex maze of subtle cues, serendipitous remarks that resonated like personal messages, and moments that felt divinely orchestrated, demonstrating that destiny does not eternally whisper its intentions. They are finally attentive because the prospect of losing you has become the singular outcome they can no longer endure or justify to their own conscience. The shift from avoidance to approach is presently occurring as they recognize their perceived safe space was, in reality, a gradual, painful draining of their own life force. Offer words of affirmation if this sentiment resonated deeply with you and instilled optimism for the profound changes presently underway. Wholeness is at last taking root because they've summoned the courage to cease fleeing intimacy and permit themselves to be perceived in their complete, unvarnished authenticity. They are internally rehearsing the instant of their re-engagement, envisioning themselves finally articulating the phrases suppressed for so extended a duration. I express my apologies. I was unprepared, and my affection never waned. They grasp that you are the singular individual who is irreplaceable, the one who stirred a dormant facet of their being that can never again lapse into slumber. The understanding has dawned upon them that prolonging this delay courted the peril of enduring remorse. A waiting that is far more oppressive than the apprehension of exposure. Indicate your subscription if you are poised to observe the juncture when their candor finally triumphs over their inclination to conceal. Each sunrise endured without you acts as a persistent reverberation of what their apprehension compelled them to relinquish, demonstrating that taciturnity did not diminish their sentiments, but rather fostered their greater resilience and potency. They once held the conviction that separation would facilitate oblivion. However, instead, it functioned as a reflective surface that intensified your recollection and hollowed their internal landscape further. They are returning because authentic affection perseveres, and the ache of your absence has ultimately become an insurmountable weight to bear. When they stand before you once more, it will be with unclouded judgment and genuine commitment, prepared to embrace the potential of authentic connection over the illusory comfort of solitude. Appreciate this video. Share in the comments which section resonated most profoundly, and subscribe for additional spiritual insights pertaining to the bond you perceive yet cannot physically observe.